I'm pretty sure that I mean the statistic could be wrong, but I'm assuming that a majority of them probably brushed up their LinkedIn pages in hopes of, oh, I'm going to connect with people when I'm there.
You're listening to Experience This, a show about the emerging experience economy with your host, Tom Young.
Hi, welcome to the show. This is Tom Young. I'm sitting here with Kiran Bajwa here in San Francisco. Hi, Kiran. How you doing?
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Hey, we're in the Le Meridian Hotel here in the Financial District. We're here for the IBM Think Conference out here in Moscone Center. Yesterday, you and I went over there, spent some time walking around. We got registered for the conference and made some interesting observations. Not necessarily unique to the IBM conference, but conferences in general.
Yeah.
There's 40, 50,000 people here. It's a lot, very well run. It's spread out over a couple city blocks in San Francisco. But as we were talking, we made the observation, over this podcast series around talking about experience, about the social dynamic and how that affects conference attendees, and how there's an opportunity to improve a conference experience by improving the social dynamic, especially at the early outset in the registration. So you want to just give your little thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think they had a great space as soon as you came out of the registration hall, that middle park area, Think Park, I believe it's called.
Right.
So they've got the TV screen set up there. And I think what I noticed a lot was that people were hanging out there. There were a lot of people in that space, but there wasn't really a lot of interaction going on.
Just let me describe the space a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's two main pavilions, Moscone, I think it's north and south.
North and south, correct.
And then in between, it's maybe 150, 200 feet wide, and it's maybe 350 yards long.
Yeah.
And in that, they have a
lounge area almost.
Outdoor. It's an outdoor lounge kind of, where they've got a little roof cover, but HD screens, great sound, and they simulcast the keynote speeches in some of the different pavilions because everybody can't fit in. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great place to watch a speech without having to go to the center. So, and it's all 4K video.
It's really nice.
Great sound, but not overwhelming, so you can have a conversation with people, but also pay attention and listen.
Yeah.
So it's a great space.
It's definitely a great space.
Yeah.
So I think the space is really good to sit down if you've got your laptop open and catch the keynote speeches. I think what the space maybe could do a bit better is, while the speeches are not on, or even after one of the speeches finishes, have some either engaging dialogue around with the people that are there, but some way to captivate and include the people to enhance the experience of already being there while you're hanging out outside amongst your peers, a networking opportunity, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of ideas.
So when we got there, the registration process was about as seamless as you can imagine. We walked in, just type your name in, and then it printed out your card in a few minutes, and you're set to go. So as long as you're pre-registered online, you can come in, you get your cards, no waiting in line. And then that to me was seamless. So they got the logistics down right. But as one of the things we were talking about as we planned this trip in terms of what we were doing, there must be over 1,000 sessions around the few days here, and it's an overwhelming choice of things to go do. It's almost too much.
There were 834 events on a single day, which is Thursday. So, and this event lasts starts half day on Tuesday and finishes around noon on Friday.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of events. I think if they had provided the opportunity of saying, hey, this is the type of stuff I'm interested in, and then, there's a list of, well, here's the 20 highly recommended topics for you to go and check out while you're here, and this is where they are on the map. That probably would have been a lot better versus fishing through the stream of stuff.
So when we were at NRF and at Jacob Javits last month, and then now here, so I don't want to, it isn't so much about this conference, but conferences in general.
Yeah.
The notion that you can be alone in a crowd.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, very fair.
So you could walk into this place and it's packed. Lots of people all around the place, and it's a beautiful venue. seamless check-in, all the things we just talked about, but you could be alone in that crowd. And that's really where I think the opportunity exists to inculcate a social dynamic as part of the process. So rather than allow you to choose, and you're free to choose which ones you go to in most cases, they're not exclusive, is to make the choices for you and to say, this is who you are, go do this, and just get people started. And the thing we talked about yesterday was when you get invited to a party where you may know one person, but you don't know most of the people at that party. You feel a little anxious. That's a thing most people, I think, feel anxious about.
Yeah.
And until they get there and they meet people and interact a little bit, they don't feel comfortable. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how do you recognize that similar phenomenon at a conference where I can say, I want to have a social dynamic at the outset to make people feel comfortable so that they can enjoy the conference even more?
There were actually other than people maybe tweeting on their own platforms, there was really no social, because we talk a lot about how can we leverage technology to enhance the experience.
Right.
So there's at any of these conferences, there's really no social technology that's there to connect people who are in the same vicinity. So one of the things that came to mind yesterday, and I'm just going to use a personal example, is Indian weddings. Now, Indian weddings are multi-day events. And people, it's hundreds of people, obviously not thousands. But by the last event, which is the final wedding on day number 4 or 5, most of the guests know each other. And a lot of times people make connections and have a much richer experience because they have been engaging with other people and meeting people along the journey of those 4 or 5 days.
So let's deconstruct that a little bit. So you've been to several Indian weddings, I assume, right?
Yep.
How does it start out? Like, I mean, when you show up, you say that the people know each other at the end of it, but at the beginning, maybe not so much. How do you break that ice?
So I think there is a clear host at play. So a lot of the times it's the family that's
Right.
doing the hosting, but there is a person that is connecting people initially and continuously introducing you. So you are forced to meet people. And then there are events that are set up where participation is required. And so you kind of get to, whether it's dance skits or, other things that are going on, you get to, maybe you're a little bit embarrassed along the way, but you get to meet people and you have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So it pushes people out of their comfort zone. And then you also have the host piece, which I think is a very important aspect.
So if they were to do that at a conference, to me, you go through the badge process where you get badged up, but in order to do that, they would need some sort of an ambassador or somebody to socially greet you and welcome you personally, or if you're with another person or 2 people, greet you and then acclimate you in a social context versus just saying, here's a map, go figure it out.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the sessions.
Yeah, and I guess people could argue that, well, with 50,000 people, you can't do it, it's impossible. But I don't know. I don't think it is impossible to do that at large-scale events. Add personalization
I think it's maybe the first reaction, you can't scale that, but I agree with you. That's a problem to be solved,
right.
Not a problem to ignore.
Yeah. I mean, one idea is, what if there was a social platform that was just for guests and it showed you within, 100-foot radius who's standing around you so that you can turn around and say, oh my God, oh, Jim, nice to meet you. I actually work in the same state as you.
Yeah.
Right? So
there's a lot of opportunities there, but I think to me, a conference that they have so much money invested here. There's millions and millions of dollars. Now, we went to Gartner conference in Orlando, the IT Expo, and they have a similar amount of people, tens of thousands. Who knows how many people are there? But it's the same kind of thing. You can be alone in the crowd. You can literally walk through the venue, and unless you actually know somebody,
Yeah.
You're going to be alone in a crowd.
Which is a shame, because if you think about the prep work of these attendees, I'm pretty sure that, I mean, the statistic could be wrong, but I'm assuming that a majority of them probably brushed up their LinkedIn pages in hopes of, oh, I'm going to connect with people when I'm there.
Right.
But yet that connection is sometimes difficult to.
So it'll be interesting to see if we can have some of those conversations with some conference organizers. We're having some conversations with people who are running a music festival about how to improve that experience. But I think there's an opportunity here for people running large conferences that are cold is not the right word, but they're not embracing from a social perspective.
Yeah, the human interaction piece.
Right, the human interaction piece. So Thursday, they're running a Women in Technology thing, and so now let's talk about this from a gender perspective.
Sure.
This is a technology conference, and it's probably heavily dominated by males. Is that? I mean, that's my observation.
It's
Do you agree with that?
very correct.
And
yeah.
the industry in general is mostly dominated by males.
Yeah.
So there's a push by Jenny Rometty, who's the CEO of IBM, who's a female, to drive women in technology initiatives. So they're having a special for the conferences, conference admissions, like I think $2,000 or something like that. But on Thursday, it's $99 for women to be there for the day.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity. So we have you signed up for that day to see what it's going to be like, and I'd like you to go check that out. But what are your expectations from a woman's perspective for this technology conference on Thursday?
So I think obviously in society right now, there's a lot around diversity and inclusion as a big topic.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they're addressing that, and maybe not so much from an HR side, because there's the business side of doing that, but more of a leadership and career development and stuff like that. And so it'd be interesting to see what the panelists, I think there's a couple of sessions that are scheduled out on those topics specifically. So how those play out. Also, even, some of the execs at IBM themselves, since it's their conference, just to hear at a large organization such as IBM, their personal experience on those topics. I think it's really interesting what they are doing. Obviously, society is, this is a very prevalent topic in society, so for them to plug into it seems a very natural thing to do. But it's good that they're doing it.
When this isn't the first time people have tried to do more inclusive diversity side of women in technology, et cetera. It's been an issue for many years that I've been working in the industry. But I think more often, well, I say too often, the issue is simply about an uncomfortable inclusion, meaning that you can participate too, and say it, as opposed to if you look at the diversity angle and you simply say, hey, lots of people are different. And people who are different from the profile of the typical attendee at one of these things, it's not just including them; it is including them from their perspective on their terms. So if we say, hey, people are different from different parts, whether it be gender or other categories, how do we take that difference and expand what it means to discuss technology in business applications in society, et cetera, from those differences, as opposed to simply saying we're including people. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not just a check in the box, right, to include people, because you want that perspective, because that perspective could be, something we haven't heard before. And it has a lot to do with opening up new markets and from a business perspective. So there's a financial incentive to get this right. Yeah.
It's not simply saying I want to increase female attendance by 20% by doing this. It's I want to discuss technology so that it's more meaningful to women in general.
I think if you look at most of technology discussions and technology as a topic in general,
right.
Most of the audience is probably males. However, there's something called Girls Who Want to Code, that was started out here in Los Angeles, which has a huge community. So it just goes to show that you're right. There is a market out there that is probably interested in this topic. It's just how do you get that message out to them in a way where it's relatable?
So the challenge I'll have for you for Thursday, for that day, is to try to look at the interactions that you go to. You'll probably go to several events. You probably picked a bunch out. I saw you looking at the agenda. You have 832 to choose from.
Right.
But I want to get a sense of where is to talk about the social dynamic and how we're not just including women by numbers, but including the female perspective and recognize the difference in a female persona in the context of technology and how we should be thinking about technology in business, in society, and in our lives.
Definitely. And I'll just part with, if you take the retail sector, which technology focuses heavy on, most of the consumers of that are probably females. So, on the user side, the user experience side, keeping females in mind is a big play from the technology piece that we want to get right. So yeah, definitely very excited and looking forward to Thursday.
Yeah, so that's great. So this is our second day here. We're going to be checking in all week on this. We've done, we'll probably do a couple live video shots from there. We did a few yesterday. Yeah. And we'll be checking in for the rest of the week. So any other parting comments on this?
No, but we are waiting for some sunshine to break through here.
Yeah, never thought it would be a flash flood warning here in San Francisco. That's something I wasn't expecting. But we'll figure it out. Yep. There's umbrellas, and a lot of this is indoors anyway. So
definitely.
Anyway, so let's check in later. Thanks very much.
Sounds good. Okay. Talk to you then. Hey, this is Karen Bajwa. Thanks for checking out the show today. If you like what you heard, head on over to our website, rumjog.com. If you happen to be in the New York or New Jersey area, come check out our meetup called Digital Disruption. We cover topics like you heard today with a live audience. Lastly, don't forget to follow us on social media using the handle @Rumjog. Talk to you soon.